Norwegian. I'm from NIE, New International Encounter. NIE is a Norwegian company based in Asker, and we also have a base in Cambridge. So NIE is actually a co-production of two companies. Sometimes we do the whole production together, sometimes we do separate productions. We've been doing 9-10 co-productions over the last 11 years. I think the first one we did was actually with Stefan Rabel in Jungelvin. Must have been in 2005. And I'm going to lead you through these hours, and I just want to make some small definitions and some small historical background on what a co-production is. I mean, the word co-production means that you co-produce together, that you put in money together and you put artistic forces together, for me. But there's a lot of different ways to name this. You can also name it a collaboration or an intent of working together. The way the co-production we know today came after the Second World War. It was when the Marshall help came to Europe, the frozen funds, they couldn't take money out of Europe, which they made in Europe in the film world. So what they did is they set up English companies where they plowed the money through, and in that way they could have some spendings with that money. This later also became quite good for American artists working in film in Europe, because they could live and work in Europe and go back to America without paying tax. So the modern co-production is actually a very strategical and a pragmatic choice to keep the wheels running. But very, very often in my field, it's a artistic wish. You see someone that you would like to work with, and then you ask, or you will be asked, or you are asked to do a co-production. But on the financial side, there's three things which are, or mainly two things. But there's and that's when you talk about what kind of co-production it is. You talk about having a co-production in kind, which very often don't bring any money. But people like the company you work with will give you, for example, a free rehearsal space, will give you administration, some public relation maybe through their own channels, which have no cost. So that's the easiest way to set up a co-production. That you as a free group come in. I speak. I mean, I know there's a lot of different people here today, but I speak mainly about free groups. So you come into a system where you actually have quite a lot of support for your work. And the other one is to get in cash, and it can also be something in between. For example, the production that we are bringing to Norway this week, which is called Berlin 1961, is made in a co-production with a German theater house, which is much bigger than us. They have 12 people just on the technical side working in the house with workshops and everything. And when we made that co-production, we brought no other money in than my wages. So NIE paid for me, and NIE paid also for the musical director. And so in a way we were a smaller partner, but they had been wanting to work with us for a very long time. So they thought that our artistic work had such value that they wanted to put that up against each other and say, okay, these are we are equal partners in this. And that's the main thing about doing a co-production, because a co-production is like a relation, and a relation is always changing, and in a relation you have to listen, and in a relation you also have to be brave to make some choices, and feel that you're on a level with your partner. I think for me, the Berlin 1961 was a great success in that way, because in the end they brought in much more money than we did into the project, and they also carried the project touring for 2.5, 3 years, Elizabeth? 3 years? Since 2009. Yeah. So, which means, I mean, which we don't have the capacity as a small project funded, or we're not small, but we're project funded company. So we don't have the administrative and productional capacity to carry such a performance beside all the other work that we have. What are the main reasons for things going wrong in a co-production? I think very often a financial disbalance, that you don't put in the same amount of money, can bring you out to problems. It always means that the company that have more money will have the upper hand in decision making, and also if you have an unclear artistic point where you work from, this can make trouble. And I mean, that's the name of the game, isn't it? That you have to have a clear point to work from, but sometimes you don't succeed. And to not succeed in the co-production is a bigger catastrophe than not succeeding in a production that you make on your own, because the trouble is done. Because the main thing is always the expectation. Also in every relation, I mean between two people as well, it's the expectation of what will be the outcome of us being together. Of course, always the expectations are high. And if you have reputation, then the expectations are even higher. So if you don't have any reputation, then you can succeed very, very well in a co-production. But of course, I mean, this is building. So if the expectations are not clear, you can also have trouble. So these are the main things to look for. And I think to look after the relation and to keep that you have a relation where you trust each other. And I always say, don't lie. Never lie about the situation. Don't say that you have the money if you don't have the money. I have to look at the time. Don't promise the tour if you haven't funded the tour. And of course, the truth is that very often you have to put something in, so people do it anyway. But it's really, really important to try to be so truthful as possible with your partner, because that's actually reputation. If you're a project-funded company, is everything you've got. There's nothing else than reputation. You have, and that also makes it very, very difficult for international partners to work with you, because they don't have any perspective. We say we will make a co-production. If I say to Stefan, can we make a co-production in 2 years' time? He cannot trust if I will have the money to fulfill the project unless I have got the money already. But then you have to do planning far ahead, and this is really one of the main problems in the area for free groups that are not on core funding. Now I have to translate very fast. And this is a little bit more about the national. I have turned off all of my phones, so it's not me. I think the main issue in both national and international co-productions are perspective, like time perspective, and of course, and time, money. To be able to promise that you will have the money when you have found your partner. And at least our experience is that we always work with bigger partners. And this is, I mean, nationally it's difficult. Melanie will probably say something about that later, about how the Arts Council look upon free groups working with an institution and how that relation is, like to be sure that the money for free groups are not going into the system, and that the big institutions don't gain things from the money that should be made for free art. Yeah, and in internationally, it's again the perspective, as I said. I think it's interesting to see that for us we have had most difficulties in national co-productions. And actually national co-productions which are made in cash, for example. We made an agreement with Dramatikkens Hus some years ago, and of course we had a problem because during that period one of our actors broke his shoulder and we had to cancel. And at the time this happened, they said, okay, we're an institution, this is normal, we will put it off and we will take it up later. But when we came to the second period, they had blown their budgets, and so that everything became very, very tight. And which meant that actually for the second period there was the whole budget for public relation, which they had promised not in cash but to spend, was spent. And that brings you of course into a very, very difficult situation. And of course it's also our mistake that we didn't make a clear agreement written. But when you're standing in the crisis, you don't always manage to do that. But I mean, at the moment we are also planning new co-productions with national institutions in Norway and Sweden, and I'm looking very much forward. And I think we're getting wiser as the years go by.
Learning by doing.
Learning by doing, yeah. It's not easy, and that's also I think when you do with international companies or even international groups, which is quite a lot happening as well. It's very good to spend time together and talk, and just to understand the politics of the different countries, to understand the way of doing stuff, and to have a really long horizon of planning. When we're doing a European Union project now, which we are still funding, trying to get funded. But what we already have started to do is to have meetings where we just sit together and try to be sure that all the partners involved are in the same boat, as we say, are going in the same direction. If the project is big, it's even more important to have all these things clear, and also the expectations. Do you expect me to make a tour lasting for 6 weeks? It's actually already short time now, when that's in 2014. So we have to look at that. We have to see if we can put it later on, or okay, there's a deadline. You have to be finished by this date in 2014. What do you do? Can we spread it out between us? And really to be very clear about those things. That you try to foresee the problems and to think all the time that the relation is the main thing.